you can't get outside, I've got an ideal project for you, and it has been inspired by the June edition of Floral Design magazine. Just seeing all that stunning wall art done by those very clever florists in the competitions in Slovakia made me think we could do this, but on a much smaller scale. So what I've found here are some coasters. These are coasters that I don't use anymore, but they're perfect for recycling. So in this video, I'm going to show you 4 different techniques for putting little bits of floral art into these coasters. I'm also going to use these, which are recycled, tiny wee canvases, and what to put on them, floral things that will last. So join me and have fun with these 8 techniques I'm going to show you. One of the tasks to do before you start your tiny art is to preserve some of these little country flowers. I have picked them to be in scale with the tiny art, so they are all small things. The first thing to do, especially if you've picked them on a rainy day, is to get as much water off them as possible before you put them into the gel. You put things like these little daisies in that way round, so that the middle part of it is getting all the gel on it, the middle centre, and the stems don't matter because they'll dry over the couple of weeks anyway. And just wiggle them in to try and get as much gel as you can onto the centre. I've also got a little rosebud, drying it as much as I can. The more water I can get out at this stage, the less time it's going to take for the silica gel to take even more water out of it. With a rose or something that's this dense, put the gel down through the centre so that every part of it's got an opportunity to dry as fast as you can before you lay it down, and eventually will cover it all up. Then I have also done some small bits of foliage. A geranium, a tiny geranium, and that can go flat in. I'd use 2 or 3 of those as well. And then as you've got that layer full, just sprinkle some more gel over it and then add another layer, and sprinkle more and add another layer. That's what it is. It is available from pharmacies, chemist shops, craft shops, or Google it and you should be able to buy it pretty easily online. A lovely little purple English country garden type flower, I don't know its name. It was here and basically self-seeds, comes up every year, every now someplace in the Floral Design garden, but I'm hoping that that will retain that purple colour and give me some colour. Alyssum. This is autumn alyssum, so it's got its own lovely little seed pods on it that are almost translucent. And Aralia seed pods. Put up that way so that I can sprinkle the gel over the top and it will collect in through. Fill up the container to the top, put the lid on and put them in a warm spot. In our case it was the hot water cupboard, and be patient and wait. It's been about 2-3 weeks, so now I can take these out and just see how well they have dried. By this method they retain their colour for quite a long time, even though they're quite dry, which is a wonderful way of adding colour, so everything you do with tiny art isn't just a brown. It's quite exciting doing this because for the first time you see what things you've got that you can actually preserve this way and how they change colour. And immediately you've got this beautiful delicate range of plant material to use. The gel itself, you can use it again. You just put it in the sun for a couple of hours and all the moisture that is absorbed from the plant material will be evaporated. Put it into an airtight container and use it again. These were the frames I was given. I don't like the brown around the edge because it doesn't go with the decor of the house, and also do not like the paisley on the inside. Find frames like this in second-hand shops, or you might have some sitting about a home you want to refurbish. It has a frame, the soft piece so your furniture doesn't get damaged, a piece of glass, the backing, and the decoration. So when we do our decoration, it has to be quite thin. This is how this one comes apart. Turn it onto the back, there's the backing. Just find a corner and very slowly just pull it off. The reason I'm doing it slowly is because I may have to use this as a template when I put it all back together again, or maybe I can even use these. It's very sticky, it's been around for a long time. That then leaves me with these wee tabs. These bend up, quite easy to bend up like any picture frame. Don't need any special tools for these things. And then this will pop out, there's your backing. And that leaves the actual decoration. Underneath that is the glass. It's pretty dirty, so that will need a wash. And we're back to the frame. Now what I'm going to do is give these a light sand and paint them gold, which goes far better with my decor. This is very fine grade sandpaper. It's just ruffling the edges, particularly as this has been varnished with a gloss. Let's talk about glues. There are 3 types of glues you can use. The first one is carpenter's glue, which we call PVA. There is an interior and there is an exterior version of it. The interior one is perfectly fine. The advantages of using this is that you can use a fine paintbrush and paint it on and be quite meticulous. The disadvantage of this one here is that it can take 12 hours to set. You have to leave this somewhere to dry where it's not going to get moved. The second choice is a spray glue. This one comes from a hardware shop. You can see it is going to set after 2 minutes, but you have 1 to 2 minutes to reposition things on it. The disadvantage with this one is it is a spray, and so it will spread over a wide area, so you can't use it for very, very fine pieces of plant material. It really is if you want to coat a larger surface. The third one, of course, is the hot glue gun and the hot glue that goes with it. The disadvantage of this is it can burn your plant material if it is too fresh, but with dried it shouldn't be a problem. The other disadvantage with it is that it can spread all over the place and leave little glue trails. The huge advantage of it, of course, is you can do very fine work and put a tiny piece on it and it will set instantly. Another disadvantage is when it gets hot, you can get quite a serious burn of it. So you might use all 3 sorts of glues on your pieces. As we work through these 8 styles, you'll see how I use them in different ways. For the second set of 4 little tiny art pieces, we're going to use these canvas boards. You can buy these from almost any art shop. These ones are 10 centimetres by 10 centimetres. And they are also recycled. They originally had photos on them and I was also given them. So all I did was rip off the photos and I was left with these. They are very sturdily built and they are designed either to become a wall piece which you can set up in any way you want like that, but another very cool thing about them is you can actually stack them like this on a sideboard, and you've given it a whole new dimension. What's wonderful about using these instead of the coasters is your art pieces can be far more 3-dimensional. The coasters, everything had to be flat down so that you could put the glass over the top. these ones can come out quite a long way. But before I start, I've got to provide some sort of unity for these four, which are destined to be stacked rather than on a wall. And I'm therefore going to spray around the edges here gold, and just at the tiniest piece around this piece here. And that will give me unity. I created this one called A Rainy Day. Now those are just sitting there like that, so you can see these are the Aralia seeds, this is the fennel flower, these are the statice, and now I can tip them off. As you can see, it's going to be a little garden scene, and it's also going to carry on down the sides. I've decided to use this glue, multi-purpose adhesive, and it does say apply to one surface and allow to tack for 1 minute, maximum 4. So that's why I have laid it out like this, because after I've sprayed it, I have only got 4 minutes to put all the pieces on this top surface. So the next step is outside, spray it with the glue, come back in and assemble. Right, first thing on go my flowers in this corner, this one here beside it, and now these ones are going to the back up here, closer down. Raindrops. Sometimes it's easy to do with your fingers. I'm doing them so they're in the rhythm. I love that natural curve that's on the Aralia. The glue is now quite tacky. Of course my rain's just not falling in one area. And now we cover these up here with the flannel flower. I'm flattening out that flannel flower so that it's going along like it's the leaves. Pushing them down. It's still tacky, so I can have a few more raindrops. And then I'm going to glue again, but this time I'm going to glue on that side, and I'll protect it from here, but it doesn't really matter because the glue will dry clear. I'll go and re-glue and we'll do the sides. So I can now carry on adding my little bits of grasses and popping. I did this corner again here as well, so I could put just a few more that go around the corner. So now you're naturally looking around that side. Then outside, I'm going to go outside again now, and I'm going to spray this side. So you can see how we've now got a three-dimensional look. Now on this side, I want the raindrops to also carry on falling. So I'm popping some more of those around this corner. I'm actually trying not to make them too even, but it can be quite difficult. And now I have this statice, it's actually still on its stalk. I can put that one quite high up. And this one a little bit lower to finish it off there before I add more of my glasses. I'm pushing it down, and now the corner, of course, I'm just going to make sure that it continues around the corner in a natural way there. So now you've got that 3D effect of a little garden going from one side to the other, and where I didn't put the gold spray, of course, into the middle part here is where it's raining down. And as simple as that, when the glue dries, I will just trim along there with the scissors, and a piece of tiny art is done. For this canvas piece, I have taken a small drawing from the internet and printed it off. Obviously adapted it to my own use and gave her a slightly hooked nose, but hey, we can't all be beautiful. I've also done it so it is the height of this, which happens to be 10 centimetres. Now you can see through the paper if you hold it up a little bit to the light, so you can position it so it's straight, and then when I've got it in the right position, just push it down. And this will make the crease you need to cut it right onto that edge. And so this style is about taking a sketch and then adding the flowers to it in a creative way. Now I'm going to use the spray glue and glue that onto that. But to do that, I have to go outside. So I have sprayed both sides, waited a minute. So now it's outside again because I want to have this gold thing running through all four of them, and I'm going to spray these edges gold and just a small amount of the gold spray around here so that she is sitting in the middle with basically white to give her a glow before I add all the plant material. It has been sprayed now, exactly as I said, with the gold around the edges and just a little bit there so she's shining in the middle. Now this is quite a big bold one being on the canvas, and so I'm going to use hot glue for some of the parts of it, and I'm going to use PVA for other parts of it. Have a close look at her. She's got lips there that are designed for having plant material on, so I'm using a tiny cut piece from out of that, and that's going to give me her lips. For her eyebrows, I'll cut it down from this tiny little brown leaf, and I'm going to give her an earring that is based on my favourite again, the Aurelia. But the rest of this, she's wearing a great big bonnet of flowers, and so we can get really big and bold and blousy with it. The colour scheme's yellow, so just normally what I do is before I start is just see how these are going to sit on there, and if necessary just cut it down a bit more so you get the flat of it there. I think this one is Mardi Gras time. I've also cut down and pulled off these back petals so that we're getting a smaller flower that's more in proportion. The thing is, if I put the flowers on first, I will build everything else around them, and the flowers will disappear slightly into the background. If I put the flowers on last, they will come up. So I'm going to put them on first because I do want them to blend a little more than they are. Status, if the art piece you're doing is kept in a hallway or somewhere like that, not in direct light, it doesn't lose its colour for many, many years. Particularly if you grow the ones that are very bright to start with, and now there's an enormous range of colours that you can use. And now I have to do that eyebrow. Whoa! Which way will it naturally curve? Cut it through there. Cut it there. And some eyelashes. Use the stem part, cut it into 2 or 3 sections, and they will go on here. Wind the glue around like that so that it doesn't drip on your piece, and put your 2 main pieces on. So we've already got that Mardi Gras feel. Cut these down a bit. Glue on the back, just a tiny touch of glue, pop them in. And now I'm just going to start building. Still got that glue gun well away from the work, so there's no trails whatsoever anywhere near it. So I'm now filling in the wee gaps, so you can't see the line where I originally had it, so I knew how far out I could go to keep it all in proportion. And just popping those little bits of yellow status in there. Okay, we change over to PVA at this stage. Why, would you ask? It's because I can get more subtle effects on it now without mucking all that up. Those are the big ones done, and now we add the interesting little pieces. The first thing I'm going to do is I've got a nice big set of Aurelia seeds here. I want one. This is an earring. Just put the earring into the PVA, pull it out. PVA, of course, dries clear. Move it up a little bit on our ear, and we have an earring. Now the rest of these I'm going to cut off, and I'm going to pop these also into her hat. Besides giving unity, it just is another form. So through the PVA like this, and just pop them in. Quite subtle, but if you can have subtle areas of contrast like this, you start seeing more and more and more the more you look at things. Cut them down a little. Cheers. Whoa, those were hard to put on. Those are the little stalks for the eyelashes, and there of course is also the eyebrow. Almost finished, but I have some Idacia berries here, and they have obliging little stalks on them. I'm going to add these to add a wee bit of contrast. Popping it, so it's giving quite a contrast there, but it lifts it. We've got all these fluffy things. This is adding more of that. Whoa, what else has she got on her head, that woman? This is the Mardi Gras after all. I'm pushing it right down in. I've chosen all the plant material in the colours of celebration, these party colours. A couple more and we will be done. And there it is, all done. Ready to go on the wall, or ready to place sideways and stand on its own. And of course that is the technique. This is the technique of this one, using a pencil drawing and completely covering it with glorious flowers. This design involves many of the pieces of plant material that I put in the silicone gel. You can actually see the gel still floating about. And also when I sprayed this block, I put a piece of paper here so that I got that line there, because this is inspired by a beautiful design that was in the June edition of Floral Design magazine, June 2017. And there it is there if you want to download it. First thing I've done, having done all that, is I'm going to use the spray again, the spray glue, and spray the top piece. Each of the stems need to just touch that piece there. So I have to measure to the, well, they can actually go off the top, can't they? It's a 3D piece. So a little bit of shivery grass here. Push it down, it will stay there. I'm putting a couple of pieces on because These are going at the back and that will give it a dimension. That on the line, press it down onto the glue. This glue has the 4 minutes before I have to have it all finished. And now these pieces just go in at random, so cut, put them on the line, press down and move on. And in the European style we don't have anything in groups or anything like that, but some do go higher than others. It's all about interest of form, changes of form. Don't want it to be symmetrical either. Add the colour. If you run out of your 4 minutes if you're using this type of glue, it's really easy. You simply respray it. Put it down. So simply by having them in the gel they retain their colour. Of course is the one that all the bees love, the alyssum. Everything's parallel. I'll have the alyssum talking to the other one, so it's facing inwards, both of them. And pressing it down onto the glue. You can see the glue is now pretty sticky. And then some things at the front. And you'll come across the remains of this when we do the coasters. That is the dried calyx of a rose. And to counter that, and starting to add some colour, we'll now add the rosehip from the same rose. So we come down to the bottom here, we're adding this geranium leaf. So I'm getting layers upon layers here. Got to do it, put them somewhere where they're actually going to get the glue on them. And okay, at this point my glue is starting to set, so I'm going to go back outside and give it another spray so I can add the last components. Another little daisy here. And so while I was out there I also sprayed around the corner, so I can lift this up now and just add these ones so that they're poking down and onto the front. It's just this connection between the side. An imaginary line there because of course it's all the same colour. A little bit more of the shivery grass on the side. You see what I'm doing? The style here is all about keeping it very, very parallel, just like I did with the little garden one. Bringing it around to make it a three-dimensional piece. Adding some of the components that are at the front to the side. And that's all the side really needs, but it's immediately given it that three-dimensional look. Push it down. So this is Memories of a Summer's Day, this one. And now that that's dry enough for me to turn, I can now spray this side and carry it around that side as well. So this time I'm going to carry this around the corner and cut it still on that line there. And finally, right on the corner, this lovely one that's sitting there. And there it is. European style arrangement for the wall. Symbol on the sides, but carrying it right through. Yeah, you're going to have fun with your silicone gel now, aren't you? Try it, it's very cool. This design requires a little pot. The pot has to be in scale. Now I have here a collection of pots that I've kept over the years. These are from medicines. This one is from camera cases. This one is what we call in New Zealand a kina, a sea urchin, and you can see I'm daring to take it off the toothpick now because it'll probably break it, but it does come with a beautiful opening in it. Tops of things, even a soy sauce container from the sushi shop. I have no idea where I found that stunning little terracotta pot, or where I found that one. This is porcelain and it's just beautiful, and of course that's the one I'm going to try and use. Try is the word, because I have to sand a piece off it to make it flat enough to be able to attach to the canvas. The canvas I've sprayed, as I had some of the other ones. This one had the print on it before I pulled the print off, and it's left the paper. I actually like that. I like that texture at the back of it, so that when the design is done it's going to give quite a nice backing. And notice I haven't sprayed it all evenly, it's still got that slightly white middle. So the challenge is a very coarse piece of sandpaper. What happens, can I make myself a flat side? Might be going to take a while. Being porcelain it took a while, but I managed to flatten that edge so that with the hot glue gun, won't work with the other type of glues. I can pop it round and push it on. Make sure it's straight. It's ready to go, because this is a classic design in the shape of a triangle. So I have here some dried plant material, and if you're familiar with the classic shapes, we start by having a piece going up the centre. Obviously my piece going up the centre has to be in tune with the size of everything here. Now the hot glue this time is going to go on the bottom here. So you're imagining there's some sort of a fixative in the bottom here, and it's going right down and in. And that is how you start the shape off. We've got it like that, and then I have to have it out the sides. So we'll take this one off. And two more pieces, one for each side. Pop it inside. That is my line going that way, and I do the same for a line going that way. And now we build it up just like you would build up a traditional design. Keep finding the small pieces of whatever you use, as long as it dried it doesn't matter. And obviously because it is a traditional one, we also have to have one piece out the front. The reason I'm doing it sideways at the moment is I'm just waiting for the hot glue to dry on that pot. Once we've got the line, we have transitional material, so in goes some dried Nigella seeds, and these will also carry the line. As I picked all these things, I checked that they were going to be in scale, and I really am only adding glue to the base. Symmetrical design, even though it's not absolutely symmetrical. Interest. This one is a shorter one, this one is going at the front, and one on each side. So you get the idea. You're just building them up using the plant material you can find to get this background starting to work. Right, with that done we can start to add some colour, and because the pot is blue I'm going for those blue tones, and so I'm going to start to add some of the status as if it's attached to these branches, so it's being hot glued to the branches. Change of colour, and at this point we're going for that triangle shape. Traditionally the biggest flowers in this style of design always went down by the rim, and as the flowers got smaller they went further up. So what I've got here is the bottom of the same flower. I'm going to start putting this in between, and you just keep building really till you run out of plant material, or you say it's had enough. These These designs just had acres and acres of plant material, and so different from modern design that is sleek, but they're always very, very pretty. And there it is, a lovely little classic style flower arrangement, three-dimensional, not flat, and really full of interesting, colourful plant material. For this coaster, now that the gold paint is all beautiful and dried, I have got a rose that was taken out of the silica gel. Beautiful little rose. These are the seeds of an alum. I think in that case it was a leek. And what I've got here is something I found on the internet. I do not profess to be a great drawer, and that little head there is what I wanted. So I have printed it off to the size I needed, which was for this particular coaster 75 millimeters. Now I'm putting the glass on just to see where I want to center it. Draw around the glass. And cut it out. This time I am going to use something that doesn't have to set quite so fast, which will be the PVA. Why am I using it? Because then I can move things around, and also it's going to have to be quite flat to go inside the coaster, so once I put it all together, the coaster will hold it all together as it dries. To undo the rose, and just take it off like this. That should give me all these beautiful rose petals that have been drying over the last few weeks. And these are going to be her skirt. The smaller the pieces, the better it's going to be. This is the backing board for this particular one. Check I've got the right one. Yep. I'm going to glue this on, but I'm just going to glue it on under where the skirt is, because I don't really want it to buckle, and often when you're using PVA and paper it will buckle. And by putting it under that skirt it doesn't matter, because you're not going to see it. It does mean it's fairly secure now. For her here. These seeds have got to be squashed quite a bit because the coaster, there's not a lot of room in this poster. That's why I've done quite flat things, so give them a good squash down. PVA dries clear. And now the skirt. Start at the bottom. You're not going to see that black line, I just drew that black line so I knew the proportions to the size of her body. It's going to go past that black line. Start with the big ones. Got the right side. You want them so they're flowing up the rhythm of a dress, with just her feet poking out a little bit. And the folds in the rose of course become the folds in her dress, which is just lovely. You can do this with any sort of petals. I was contemplating using hydrangeas for a while, and then I found this lovely rose in the garden and thought that will do it. Now I've got to try and do this tiny little piece there. Ooh, this is the tricky one. This is the bust. And there she is, ready to go to the ball. The glue drying because it will dry. Pop it down. The backing that I saved is still sticky. If you don't have backing you can save, you can use felt. You can use even a piece of old woolen blanket, anything that is going to protect the surface of the table or whatever that is going on. I hope you're really going to have a go with this because it's really quite simple, isn't it? But the effect is amazing. And you have a unique coaster that nobody else will ever have in the world. This particular style is unbelievably creative because you are looking for a human form out of plant material. And I have got here some Muehlenbeckia, fennel flower, straw flowers. I've also cut a piece of paper, just ordinary A4 paper, into the same square shape as the glass. So I'm looking at the Muehlenbeckia and I'm looking for a human form. There is a word for it. As a human we have the ability to see a human form. And I actually can see the shape of a dancer. I'll cut it here so you can see it. Might be obvious yet. There's the crutch, there's a leg, there's a leg. That gets cut off. There's an arm, there's an arm. Now of course this has to be flat on a coaster. So my dancer can only be as big as the piece of glass, or actually even smaller. So I've got to cut the limbs down. If you think I'm mad, it does look quite mad at the moment. Imagine that's the knee. So I'm cutting it there. And here's the bottom of the foot there. So I'm cutting it there. I mean, this is when you've just got to be looking in plant material and saying, what am I seeing? That's an elbow coming down to a hand. You might extend it with some artistic license and put it right over to here. And this is the hand going up in the ear, and so we can put it up to about, excuse my elbow. There, so he's got a hand. Can you now see a dancer? Oh, it hasn't got a head. Let's have a look how it's going to look inside the frame. Yep, okay. Our goal now is, now we've got our dancer shape, is to give it a head. Well, I cannot use something that is a sphere because we've got to do flat. But I have got other resources here, haven't I, that I can make a little head, or it is headless. I've also decided this, if I pull it apart, would make the most beautiful tutu. Tutu 3-3. And you see, all this is being planned before I get anywhere near the glue. I'm looking to see what I can make, how big these petals have to be in scale with my dancer through here. And so those ones are a wee bit big, so I'll go back to the small part of the plant at the bottom down here. So it's just as you're creating, I hope you're having a lot of fun if you do this, because this is really quite cool fun. You never know what you're going to end up with. Proteas, by the way, dried proteas also look beautiful done in this way. I'm just going to put the tiniest piece of spray glue to hold that onto there. Then I'm going to spray glue it again to put that onto there, and then it'll hold down, and from that point we can start adding all our pieces. With these creative pieces you have to go with the flow, so having it attached and glued the person, I suddenly picked this up and said, because I was looking for a head, and think, whoa, it looks like some warrior. Perhaps I could put, as he's leaping across to whatever, I could add a piece around here like a skirt, a grass skirt, some sort of a native skirt. So that's what I've decided to do, and suddenly it looks like it's something out of The Lion King. So these aren't attached, because that's the whole point of it really, is just deciding where you want things to go. That's attached. So I'll now go back outside and spray this here and where his head is, and come back in and we'll attach them. I have to wait that magic minute until I can stick anything down. When I turned it over, it actually looked like a head with a mask and a great fantastic fierce feathered top on it. So now we'll put on the skirt. I can put some under there. I'm trying to think about the rhythm. When someone is leaping, what is the rhythm of the leap? What would be happening to pieces of material or plant material if it was some native dancer, Lion King type thing? And so that's where I'm trying to place these little bits of the flannel flag. And I've also got to find pieces that are small enough that don't look ridiculous beside it. I think it's possibly that piece there. Pop it all down, that's how I want it. And the glass is actually just creating the weight to hold it down onto the glue. The pieces the glass is sitting on haven't been glued, so it should be fine to lift up again. If not, I guess it doesn't really matter because the glass is going there anyway. And I'm going to leave that for 5 or so minutes, and then I'll put it in its frame. And we have our dancer. Into the frame. Put this back on top again. Don't have to re-glue these, fortunately. It's sticky, sticky, sticky. Turn it over, and there's our dancer. This next coaster technique is based on a photo. This happens to be a photo of my mother and father, and of course you can do a photo of anything you want if you want to set a coaster of your family. I have reduced the photo down so it is going to fit just with the two of them there, and I'm using the glass once again to get the size. Just checking, because obviously the glass goes on the inside. Have I still got them in the frame? I have. And so I can now draw around it. I have purposely kept it above their heads there because that's where I'm going to put the flowers. Quite a sentimental photo, this one. My mother is still alive, she's now 93, and my dad has died, so this is a rather nice thing to have on a coaster. But if you want to have something that is less about memories and more about the present, it's a wonderful technique for brides, because where the photos have been taken of them with their bouquets, you can put real flowers where their bouquets were in the photo. Very personalised set of coasters. if you had a set of 6 of them, all done with photographs. Gifts, Christmas presents, wedding favours. This photographic technique is really, really cool. So from that I can see that the flowers are going to go around just this top piece here. Much smaller, so they're all going to be quite tiny flowers, and I'm going to have it so we're looking through the flowers. So then you could do it as a heart, you could do it as a star, or you could just do it, because we've got this vine here, we could just do it as real flowers hanging off that vine, and that in fact is what I am going to do. So I now know that the flowers only can go to that little piece there, and once again I will use the spray glue to spray this onto the back. Waited a minute, on it goes. Now here's my array of things I have to make it all work. Obviously I'm going to be working with very small things, so the alum comes into mind immediately, and some of the Aurelia, and these tiny pieces of statice, but I might get it in a different colour. Just playing really with yours. You could put the arrangements on the head, on their clothes. You could even set up the photograph, do it in black and white or do it in colour. I'm going to put a tiny little mark just in that corner there, and in that corner there, so I can see how far there it is there, just to see how far it's travelling still inside the frame. Because my mother's wearing blue here, I've chosen blue statice, chosen to use PVA, and pop it just onto there. I really do need a much smaller paintbrush if you've got one. It's the best way to go. PVA, of course, hours to dry, so I've got plenty of time, and the glass will hold it in place. So these I want cut right back down to the individual little florets. Don't want anything big here because you haven't got a lot of room. So cutting them down. And these ones as well. So that's just adding a bit of green through there, the cream to go with the cream of Dad's shirt. And the first thing I'm going to do is put on the greenery in the background, which are these tiny little things here. Try not to use too much PVA, otherwise it will bleed onto the paper, particularly if you've used a computer printer to do it. So I'm hoping I can give them a squish down. Here's the other corner there. There. Alright, so the glue is actually on the thing. And I'll carry on just adding this as like the green base if you were doing a piece of floral work. So there's my little string of green, and I've got just 2 left, and I'm going to put it on Mum's, this way around they had it, didn't they? And that will become the beginning of a little shoulder spray. So now to the lovely little pieces of blue from the statice. See how when they cut down they're super wee flowers. And PVA doesn't affect the back of the flowers or anything, it doesn't burn them. If I'd used hot glue, I might have glued them. So Mum gets another little piece here of her shoulder spray. We don't panic when it goes to the wrong place because you can move it. And I'm also then going to add them along this top little frame piece. One of our mottos has always been life's too short to stuff mushrooms, and this is very much stuffing mushrooms, but it does become worthwhile when it's something that every time you put your glass on it, or someone does, it'll be reminding you of people from your past who of course you still love dearly, or reminding you of a fantastic day in your life, and you've got a set of coasters to commemorate it. These will last for years. And then I've got the seed heads, and I've taken off the stem, and these are just going to pop in here as a bit of a change of form, and of course to go with the shirt. So we're getting, it's very subtle, I know it's very subtle, but it's actually something when people are just meeting for the first time and they're looking at this coaster, it becomes a really nice conversation piece. And of course when Mum sees it when she comes to visit, she'll be quite flattered. Little one in the middle of there. And another one at this end, and it will be done. See if I've got it right. Yes, I have. Push them down and add the backing. And then there I have a tribute to my mother and father, a photograph on a coaster for us all to enjoy. And another technique for you to try for a set of coasters. For this one, you're going to need a stamper. These you find in craft shops and they are used for scrapbooking. This one is a little dragonfly and that's what it looks like, both the cutout and what's left. You'll also need the coaster set and a little piece of paper, white paper I've done there, and I've selected this time foliage. And the foliage are all long lasting. Nandina, I just picked it, beautiful red colour, it will not lose that redness. Ivy will possibly 3 years before it loses any of its colour at all. This is dried aspidistra. It was green, it is in the stages of dark brown, then it will go light brown. And this is glycerined birch. It's been put in glycerine, the whole branch was put in glycerine, 50% glycerine, 50% water for 3 months. It's very, very pliable as a result. Put them through the cutter. I've already put this piece of ivy through so that you can see the back. In the back, as I put it through, I made sure the cutter, if I take this off you'll see it better, the cutter is actually covering the entire leaf, so I know I'm going to get a dragonfly that is completely green. Push it down and it comes out there. And there's my ivy dragonfly. So this is a very quick coaster to do because it really is just dragonflies. I pull this out and that's where it was cut. This is the slot here that you put it through, and it has to be flat enough. I'll show you with the lambs there at the moment. It has to be flat enough not only to get through that space but if the camera can show you, there's actually a thinner space where the cutter is inside. So the leaves you pick have to be particularly thin. And the lamb's ear, if you compare it, it looks fine on the outside for this piece, but as soon as it goes in, besides being too floppy, when it gets to here, it's not going to go any further than there. I've also tried to get a range of colours. So here goes the birch leaf in, much easier, isn't it, when you get the right plant material. Bring it down and check that it's completely covering that. And at this point you can position it by, I can turn this around now and say I want those dragonflies' wings to have a vein going down the middle, so I can put the middle of the leaf, if you can see that, going down the middle of the dragonfly. Cut my little dragonfly out. Just do this with all of them. You can use, obviously you don't have to use plant material, but that's the whole point of this video, isn't it? Creating amazing things using plant material. The Nandina was the hardest to do because it had a curl on the leaf. Leave it under a heavy weight for a couple of days and that will be easier for you. I have sprayed this with a spray glue, so I will put just the backing paper on it. And at this point, think about where you want to put, in this case, the dragonflies. You could have them like an insect collection in a museum where they all are laid out in perfect order for every species in an absolute pattern. With the interestingly different colour one in the middle. Once again using all different ones. There's a conversation piece. Oh, what's that? What's that that you used on that? So they are great conversation pieces. So it becomes almost like a little patchwork. Or you could have it realistic as a swarm of dragonflies whiz past, following the lead dragonfly. It's quite fragile, this one. Remembering of course that the border is not the edge of that, the border is actually closer in. The first thing I have to do of course is to now spray glue this surface again. Now this is all nice and dry, so that I can then just put these on exactly where I want them. It's been sprayed, you can still see it's wet, and I'm just waiting that minute. And I've decided to do mine as a museum exhibit of different sorts of dragonflies collected in the wilds of Africa. And here's the very fragile Nandina. This is a very rare species, this one. And I'm just going to leave it as that, something of interest. I'm going to leave these outside in the sun for possibly half an hour before I put it inside its little frame, because I want that glue to really dry before I put the glass on it. So there they are, 8 amazing techniques, all different. To recap, using a pencil sketch and filling it up with flowers, using a little utensil of some sort, gluing it onto the base and making it like a miniature arrangement, creating a scene of some sort using plant material, or taking a design, in this case a European design, and putting it onto a canvas as a permanent piece. With the coasters, which of course you can also do with the canvases. Using a photograph as your starting point. Using a cutter from the world of scrapbooking to make shapes out of plant material. Using completely plant material to create some sort of a form. Doesn't just have to be a human. And using a sketch and filling it in. Using petals and beautiful things to make gowns and fashion statements. But doesn't just end there, because you can scale these up. Don't think coasters, think great big pieces of wall art. Think small A4 frames. They would all work with these techniques. You could even use them as placemats if you put them on a base and laminated them. These could be enormous. These could be as big as an A4 piece of paper. You can buy these canvas frames in all sorts of sizes to get you started. Just scale everything up. Do have a go. It really is good fun, and it's a fantastic thing to do inside in winter. See you next time.